Today we're going to talk about fast texture modes, what they are and how to best use them. The first thing we're going to do is look at the ink set setting. So depending on the ink set in your printer, there's a maximum number of inks allowed to be used simultaneously. Right now I'm running CMYK, light cyan, light magenta, clear, and white. In this particular ink set combination, I have all 8 channels available to me to print in my fast texture mode. Let's just say you were running CMYK with a clear primer and a white. This particular ink set would only allow you 6 channels simultaneously times the number of overprints. So we're going to walk through this and it'll all make sense. I'm going to go back to my white clear setting and I'm going to bring up my advanced button to go into my advanced composite settings. I can see down at the bottom, I have 2 fast texture modes. I have white and black. And what that means is how the fast texture finishes what it looks like. With white, when you're done texturing, the texture print is going to look pretty much solid white. Now there are some differences and we'll get into that a little later. Now in black, when you're done texture printing, the texture is going to look solid black. So depending on what you're doing, you'll want to finish in either white or black because that saves you additional steps before you lay down color, or even if you need to lay down color at all. For example, if your piece is going to be black, with the black texture mode, it's going to finish and look solid black, so you won't need to lay down a black color layer. So let's get into this and we'll see how it all works. So I'm going to go back to white. I have an image on screen. I'm going to quickly generate a texture. All right, so I've got my pedestal full and I have my texture mode just slightly off of full. Now, even though this background looks black, the AI engine does pick up some of this texture back there, and you'll see that when we do the texture print. But for now, we're just going to focus on the flower. That's the only thing that really matters at this point. I'm going to hit apply, generates the texture, and now we're going to drop into the composite settings and see what we have set here. So I have 40, which is 0.85 millimeters. I'm going to go down because I don't really need to go very high to do an example of this. We just want it to print really fast. So I'm going to go down to about 0.5 millimeter, which is 24 passes. Now notice that as I move my arrows up and down, I'm going from 24, 32, 40, 48. So it's jumping in multiples of 8. And so why is that? Well, like I said before, in my ink set white clear, I have 8 available channels. So in fast texture mode, what it's doing is it's saying to generate this texture and print it as fast as possible, we're going to use all the available channels of ink. And then multiply that by the number of overprints that we're going to do. So for example, let me back up. We'll go down to 8. So all 8 ink channels, 1 overprint is 8 passes. All 8 ink channels with 2 overprints would be 16. 3 overprints would be 24. 4, 32, 5, 40, 6, 48, 7, 56, 8, 64, and 9, 72. So on this particular printer, 9 is the maximum number of overprints that I can do. So 9 times 8 ink channels is 72. So I could do 72 passes in one layer, and that's my maximum number. Now, if I go above that, then the software is automatically going to break this texture print into multiple layers. So you as a user don't need to know that, but just know that if you go above the maximum, you're going to get 2 layers of texture printing before it completes. So 72 in this case would be my maximum. So let's get out of this and let's change our ink set. Let's go to clear primer, white, white, where we only have 6 channels. And I'm going to go back into my composite settings. And now we're going to go down to the bottom here, and we'll notice we'll start with the number 6. And as I increment up, it's going to increment in multiples of 6. Now, 6, and again, 9 overprints being the maximum, we're going to get to 54, and that's going to be our maximum number of passes that we can do in a single layer before the software breaks it up into multiple layers. All right, so that's really great. We understand how that's working now. What if I unlock the lock? Well, if I unlock the lock, then I can increment this in single digits. So I can go up to any number I want to. For example, if I had a specific height in millimeters that I needed to hit, I could get that pretty close to exact by just going up in single multiples. Now, when you do this, what's going to happen is there's going to be your set multiple that you have, 6 or 8, in the 2 examples that I've given. So it'll go up to that point. So let's just say we're going to do 42, for example, which is an equal multiple of 6. But if I went to 43, what I'm going to have is 6 times the number of overprints to get to 42. And then I'm going to have a single pass of whatever it's going to take to equal the number of passes that I've specified. So you'll have multiple passes generating, and because there's different combinations of ink, let's say if I only have to use 1 ink channel to get to 43, whatever color ink that's going to be in that channel, you're going to see that on top of your texture. So when we talk about finishing in white and black, we really want to consider the fact that we want to stay in our multiples of ink channels that we're dealing with. This way, the combinations of inks in the order that we specify in this print mode, we know will finish in white or in black. So I'm going to go back to my ink setting here, because we are going to generate a print job. And I'm going to go back into my composite settings. And I'm going to go to 24 passes. It's going to be roughly 0.5 millimeter. I don't want a color layer here because we just want to look at what this fast texture mode and what this texture is going to look like when it prints. So I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to hit print, and we're going to send this off to the printer, and we're going to take a look at what it looks like when it's done. So the next thing we want to do is change over to black texture mode, and we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to take a look at the differences. So I'm going to bring my image back in. And we're going to print just above the last one. Generate the texture map with the same settings. And go into my composite settings. Go to the same height, which was 24, and I'm going to get rid of my color layer, and you can see my fast texture is now set to black. I'm going to say OK, and we'll hit print, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. So here you can see I have my white texture on the bottom and my black fast texture on the top. Now both of these prints are identical other than the print mode used to make them. So the reason this is important is after I put down my white layer, so this is a single white layer on top, and you can see that the black texture on top is not fully covered by a single white layer. I would have to do additional white layers in order to cover it fully, whereas my white texture on the bottom is fully covered and I'm ready to lay down my color layer. So here are the two prints with the color layer laid down. Now my bottom fast texture in white is fully covered, and you can see the color changes with my black texture layer on top because it wasn't fully covered. So depending on the piece and the type of work you're doing, you'll want to choose the fast texture mode that is best suited for the outcome of the piece. And we can really see this in the next piece that we're going to look at, which is a black and white hat patch. So let's look at a case when I'd want to use my black texture mode. So I'm going to go into my advanced composite settings. I'm going to switch over to black. And we're going to bring in an image that's a black and white hat patch. All right, so here's that particular image. And I'm going to go and generate a texture layer for it in my ADA Compose window. And I just want to elevate the black channel so you can see everything in white is what's going to be elevated. And for this, we're going to go in our composite settings and we're going to set the height up to right at a millimeter. So we have a full millimeter, that's 48 passes. And I'm going to remove the color layer because what we want to do is just look at how this finishes with the black fast texture mode and why that's important. So I'm going to say okay, and let's hit print and send this into the queue, and we'll take a look at the print when it's done. So here we have our finished print, and we can see that it looks totally black. I do not need to lay down a black color layer in order to finish this off. And that's one of the important aspects of the fast texture black mode, that the piece is done, and so it's going to save time. Also, when we look at an angle, we can see even with a buildup of just slightly over a millimeter, we don't see any other color ink channels used in this print. So the way we layer the inks in this mode, it's going to look totally black both from the top and from the sides with no other colors peeking through, and that's very important. So I hope this explains the two fast texture modes, white and black, and when to use each. Thanks for watching this video.